I'm aware that this is not an Optimus Prime and technically not a Nemesis Prime. This is Transformers Go G-25 Go Prime. So, as such, maybe it doesn't qualify for a NemeSeptember slot. But the thing is, it's a black repaint, and Prime is in the name, so I'm counting it. If you have a problem with that, feel free to talk about it in the comments because engagement helps the video. But that's not going to change the fact that we're doing this. So yeah, this is Go Prime from Transformers Go. It is a black repaint of Thundertron, the original Prime Thundertron, not the Legacy version, though I still hope that they do a Legacy Thundertron repaint in these colors because I would probably get it. But this is a cool figure. It is very of its time in certain ways, but still really cool. And it does some really interesting things with the transformation. Also, the weapon storage of this version. I don't know that this version came with like the light up mech tech style weapon that the original Prime figure did, but it does come with these swords, these semi-soft plastic red swords that don't really have a good place to store in lion, tiger, liger, lion, I think lion mode. But yeah, they're both mirrored, so they're identical, except they've got like the little slots on the opposite sides. But pretty decently molded. They look reasonably nasty, and we will look at those more when we get to the robot mode. But the animal mode, beast mode, it is pretty cool. I like the, it's not strictly speaking a Nemesis, but I still like the matte black, the lighter gray, like the contrast between those colors is really nice. But then you also get some gold in terms of like this yellowish gold plastic for the tail, which is very, very wiggly, and the claws in the front, as well as gold paint, and then the metallic teal that they used for parts of the mane, in addition to the translucent that they used for parts of the shoulders, head, and back. And it's a nice color scheme. It works for this really well. I dig it a lot, and this is a cool figure. The articulation in this mode is pretty much non-existent. Like, you can wiggle the knee and like you can move the feet around a little bit depending on the leg, which, more on that in robot mode, but like you can't really do much else. You can, I guess, if you want, untab these flaps from the back, which give you more range of motion on the legs, but the intention is to have those tabbed in so that the hips can't really move, or back leg, hips, whatever, can't really move. The forelegs are even more limited because you just get a little bit of bend here, and then this piece is on a ball joint, and that's pretty much it. Or pretty much nothing, that is it. You cannot open and close the mouth, that doesn't move at all, so yeah, you're not, unless you get really wild with the transformation joints, you're not going to be posing this guy very much. But I also don't think you necessarily need to. It's classic beast modes were kind of just bricks that looked like animals, so it's disappointing that it doesn't have more posability, but given the age and all that, I'm not really that bothered by it. But it does look really cool. Again, the colors are really nice, and I like that you get this lighter gray mechanical detail poking out in a few places. You also get mechanical detail in like the black, but it's harder to see. And I also, again, like how these bits along the back here are actually very smooth. You don't get any of that mechanical detailing on these plates or along the back, and it just makes it read like, like plate armor or something like that. Kind of like how you don't get a lot of greebling on the mane here. It's a neat effect. I dig it. Now let's move along to size comparisons, because I want to keep things moving. There's so many Nemesis Primes to talk about that we've talked about, and some that we still have to talk about. But here he is with Dinobot and Ova Prime, and put Samus there. And since we've got the space, we'll bring in Burnout. You can see that he's bigger. I believe this was a Voyager class figure back in the day, like the original Prime mold. I don't remember for sure, but I'm pretty sure it was. And, you know, it's 4 legs, so it's a little bit more spread out than like a more condensed vehicle. But I think size-wise, that kind of tracks. Okay, let's get all of you out of here. And bring in our other Voyager Nemesis that we tend to use in these videos lately. Here he is with the siege mold. So yeah, it's roughly same size. This guy is actually denser, or feels a little denser and heavier though, so make of that what you will. And finally, here he is with the duck tank. Now, before we get bipedal, if you want to support the kinds of things that I'm doing on this channel, I do have a Patreon and a Ko-fi, links to both at the end of the video as well as down in the description. Otherwise, there is the always helpful YouTube thing of like, comment, share, subscribe now to transform this guy. It is pretty simple, but also pretty clever. So to start, we're going to start with the legs. I'm going to untab these flaps. There's just this there's this tab right here that tabs into, hard to see, but it tabs into the little slot in the hip on the side there. So untab both of those, straighten out the back legs, rotate them around 180 degrees, then rotate the feet around 180 degrees. While we're here, we'll also compress the hips in. So they're like this for the animal mode, just compress them and the hip skirts in to clean up the proportions. And you want to take these little flaps on the side of the foot, bring them forward, and then on this foot there is a heel you can bring out. This foot doesn't really have the same heel, it's got this peg instead, so you just leave that as is, but you can still flip these little flaps forward. And there we've got the lower body just about done. Last thing to do is to take this whole panel section back here and pull it out and down, kind of pull it away from the body, and that will just kind of sit in the back. That just frees up the waist a bit. And there we go. That is the lower body all taken care of. And now things get really interesting. Also, I'm going to try and bend this tail back a bit. Okay, so now things get interesting in that upper body. Going to take these translucent turquoisey sections here and untab them. They actually tab in right here. There's a little tab that you untab this from. There you can kind of see the tab. So you untab that, and that'll allow you to untab this entire armature, and that can swing around like this. Zoom back out here. Okay, so zoomed out, you untab this, and swing it around. And these can just kind of stay like this for now. Then you want to flip this piece forward, pull these chunks out, and then you can actually straighten out what was actually the robot mode arm this whole time, and hinge that on this yellow hinge into place. Flip out the fist, and fold up shoulder pad. Same deal here. Bring this out, rotate it around, rotate this around, and straighten out the arm, flip out the fist. There we go. This piece is spring-loaded. So this actually comes down when you go into the beast mode, and will get pushed in when we finish going to the robot mode. But in order to finish, you want to take the sides of the main here, and these will double hinge forward and partially cover the face. And then this whole thing, this whole assembly can hinge down. It's a little creaky, but it does hinge down. And this will go in to make the torso. These flaps here fold out to give him kind of like a flared collar. And then You can kind of pull the head up. It'll kind of softly click into place. So pull the head up and then take this little head crest thing and push that down like so. And we are just about done. There is still the matter of the claws on the back here, and this is really cool. I really like this aspect of it, and anyone who's familiar with this toy knows exactly where this is going, but I still think it's cool. So you want to take these claws and rotate them 180 degrees at that ball joint. Bring this armature up, and there is a peg right here on the armature that pegs into this slot on the back of the shoulder hinge. So bring that up and peg that into place on both sides. Bring that up, peg it in, and also, of course, rotate this one around 180 degrees. And to wrap it all up, you want to take this assembly, fold the claw up, and also kind of fold this flap up. Rotate this down, and then fold a little flap down. And that gives you a pretty nifty shoulder pad. Like, it's all spiky and stuff. I like that. And same deal on this one. Just bring it down. You want to be mindful of these translucent pieces, but just bring that down. Flip down the little panel there. And there you go. And like, this may just be me. I may just be lucky. I don't know. Maybe it's this figure. Maybe it's something else. But these actually stay in place pretty well. Like, they can get unpegged if you like push against this too much. But for the most part, these claws are not getting like, they're not going to come out of place very easily, which I appreciate. But anyway, that's it. There we have G-25 Go Prime in robot mode, and this is a really nifty design. I like the kind of half, like, sort of beast mode-ish pirate look. The this thing, again, you can kind of angle this however you want, but like, I really get a kick out of this design. Aside from like the armatures up here, it's actually a pretty clean look too. There we go. I hadn't brought the little thing down all the way, but yeah, it's a pretty clean look, all things considered. He wears his kibble extremely well, and in these colors, he looks great. I love how you get more of a mix now of the black and light gray, where it's just much more interspersed in, like, you know, black, gray, black, gray, black, gray, black, gray, black. It looks good. Then you also have the teal going all throughout the upper body now. I guess a little bit in the legs would have been nice to kind of bring everything together completely, but you do get other accent colors like the gold in like the shoulders and upper body and the head, as well as down around the feet and the one shin. So I think that's cool. The transformation is cool. One thing I like that this figure does over what I've seen of the Legacy figure, because I don't own the Legacy figure currently, but from what I've seen, the Legacy figure's beast mode head just kind of comes down to make the chest. I like that there's a little bit more transformation with this one that makes the mane pull forward and has these bits flare out that just kind of change. It just kind of changes the shape a little bit more. And I think that's really cool. There are certain things that this one does that the Legacy version doesn't, that have me very happy to have this. And because it is a black repaint with the name, with the, you know, with Prime in the name, I feel like I can get away with having it in the Nemesis Prime collection. So yeah, the molding is also really cool. It's pretty much all the same stuff aside from the head that we saw in the beast mode, but it does look really neat. And you also get the peg leg thing where you can take this foot in particular, because this one's on a ball joint, but this one with the extra detailing here is actually a peg. So you just wiggle this out and that gives him a peg leg. And I actually prefer the peg leg because if you notice, he's standing. I mean, well, for one, he's standing, but you know, in addition to standing, he's standing much more level. But he doesn't really do that when you have this foot attached, because it's just like a little hole here that pegs over the peg, and it just kind of makes him, like when you peg it in, he doesn't really, he kind of tilts to the side, and I don't like that. And like adjusting it doesn't really help. So I wonder if that, no, adjusting that doesn't really make a difference either. So yeah, it's just, I just prefer to immediately pop that off when I get him into robot mode. But this thing, if you want, you can do the fan mode thing that people have pointed out, where if you fold these bits back a bit and fold down that peg, it kind of looks like a parrot. So you can have him kind of have like a little parrot buddy, which doesn't really peg in anywhere, but he can kind of sort of hold it. Maybe like have him hold the wing, I don't know. What I actually prefer to do with this is I fold this in and I just peg it into his back, because there are a couple of peg holes here. So I just peg it into his back and push these little flaps. Trying to remember how I do it. Can't remember if I have them this way or not, but basically, okay, no. I think I did it the other way around, so that these flaps are like this and this pegs in this way. I think. Yeah, I think that's how I did it. But essentially, this just kind of, I peg it onto his back. It adds a little bit of visual detail, a little visually interesting detail to the back, and means you don't have to worry about losing it. Because you could have him be like a peg-legged lion, but I think it works better as a peg-legged robot. But like you can see, he stands pretty well, I say, as he falls. He does stand pretty well, though, with the peg leg. Like, I'm not really worried about him tipping over unless I start, poking him. But yeah, he's not. He's relatively stable like that, so that's fine. And he does look really cool like this. Okay, now, as for, a little too high up there. As for the robot mode head, this is also very cool. On the Legacy figure, I honestly prefer the new Legacy head sculpt over the revised one, or the original Legacy head sculpt, I should say, rather than the revised head sculpt they gave the multi-pack figure. But I like this. I like how it's this just very grumpy, grizzled face that you can't really see because of the crest in the way, but like it's sculpted well. I like the two-tone beard, or rather the beard is black and looks like the mustache is silver along with the face, and I just think that looks really cool. The red eyes stand out just enough, even under all this glossy black and metallic gold, which is really nicely painted too for the head crest. And I like how these lines, they're not the same design as what's going on in the lion head, but they're evocative of each other. They look like it's the same idea. And yeah, just a little bit of black more on the side to help keep the head from getting too boring. A little bit of translucent blue on the top, which I don't know that really works for light piping, but it works in as far as like colors go, because this kind of works with these, and it also works with what's going on in the forearms. So it's a cool head sculpt. I like the little hairs that they have sculpted and all that, and like the beard is cool, and yeah. Also, just want to say real quick before we move on to articulation, the forearms, the translucent plastic is a bit alarming, but from what I can tell, yeah, the actual joint is this gray plastic meeting with this black plastic. The translucent turquoise is more of like a shell over the black plastic. So while this does have like a pin going through it, this is part of the joint. It's these two plastics that are rubbing against each other during transformation. So I feel like this translucent plastic should be okay for, like it doesn't seem like it's going to be crumbling anytime soon. I'm more worried about these up here, but these seem to be holding up pretty well too, so I don't think it's that bad. And now for the articulation, as you saw, the head is on a ball joint, but you're not really going to get any up and down. You can kind of detransform it slightly to have him look down, but then it's like, if you push it down too far, it looks really bad. You get some left and right movement, but you kind of have to tilt the head up as you rotate it, and it only, like, you're only getting that much, which is enough. You can't get super duper dynamic with the head pose ability at least, but that's enough, I think. The arms can go out to just about 90. Well, actually, they could probably go, yeah, they can go past 90. It's just the other shoulder pad here is crashing into this bit jutting off the forearm. You get a bicep rotation, you get just under 90 degrees of elbow bend, but they can also bend the other way, past 90 for transformation. So if you wanted to use that, you could. You do get forward and backward motion. Backward works better than forward because of this, but you can also kind of fold this up to get it out of the way of the rotation. But now you can see that like things are getting a little bit unseated. So that does get in the way of the articulation. Of course, you can unpeg it and move it back to bring it around. And it's a ball joint, so you can technically use it for like a slightly butterfly motion as well. And this will kind of go up on its own, and you can adjust the lower shoulder pad. You can't really use the, because of everything going on in here, you can't really use that other transformation joint for any additional motion, but I think that's fine. And just peg that back into place. Bring this back down. Bring this back down. So yeah, I can appreciate how these shoulder pads don't get in the way as much as I initially expected them to. I'm all about that. You do not get any waist rotation, which given how this transforms, I kind of understand why. The hip skirts are on ball joints, so you can kind of move them around, but they don't get all the way out of the way, so you're only going to get those legs out about that far. You can kind of bring them forward to get the legs out more, and back doesn't really give you too much more space, but you can kind of work around it. You get a thigh rotation that it doesn't go all the way around because of the sculpt. Like this light gray piece is just going to whack into either the back or the front, but it still gets a pretty decent amount of rotation. You can go forward to not quite 90, back to, well, here it's knocking into this piece. Kind of, if you bring it out, which goes out a ways, but like if you bring it out, you can get further back. You get well past 90 on the knee because of transformation. And then as noted on this foot, you just kind of get rotation, and there is actually, I unplug this real quick. We peg this back in, you get the rotation from the peg, and you get some forward and backward tilt, and that's it. And I'm not the biggest fan of that, so But on this foot, it's a ball joint, so you do get some side-to-side tilt, some really decent forward and backward tilt, and rotation here as well. So, oh, and if you wanted to, you could move the heel and move these little pieces, but these are more just decorative, not really for support. So pretty decently posable, really. He looks cool enough to be intimidating, and that's kind of all I could ask for in a pseudo-nemesis. Now, for the swords, you can store them on the hip skirts. You can actually use the tabs that are in there that plugged in for the beast mode. You can plug these in there, and it is serviceable. That's about all I can say for it. They do plug in, but they don't, like... Okay, so the problem I have with this as a solution for... There he goes. The problem I have with this as a solution for weapon storage is, well, first of all, it's extremely easy to knock them out of place, as you just saw. But secondly, when you peg these in... Get this one in place this time. When you peg these in, you peg them... When you peg these in... There we go. When you peg these in, they kind of keep the skirts from going down. So you can see on this side, it sits much more flush. It can sit much more flush to the hip. Here, it's sticking out quite a ways. And I just don't really care for that. So that's why I don't do it. Instead, I just have him hold the swords because they're swords and he looks cool holding them. So we just, yeah. I just do that, and that is the way to go, in my opinion, anyway. And this guy looks incredibly cool. Get him balanced here, which is not anywhere near as rough as I'm making it look. I'm just kind of awkwardly messing with this guy in front of a camera. But yeah, he's cool. And he can get dynamic-ish. Not like super duper dynamic because of the limitations and just the design, but you know, he can pose. He can pose. He can take advantage of those ball joints and other joints, and you know, you can get relatively dynamic with him, and you don't even necessarily have to worry about things popping out of place too much. But also, as a reminder, this is an older figure, which is sad to say because I think this probably came out back when I was still considered an adult. Time needs to stop moving for at least a little bit, or at least slow down. Give me a chance to catch my breath. Anyway, there is Go Prime. Let's bring in our size comparison. So here we've got Dinobot, and he is a little bit taller than the Legacy Dinobot mold. And there's Burnout, Samus. So he's like, I don't know, what do we call this? Like older Voyager, like early 2000s Voyager. I forget when this came out, or when this mold originally came out, but he's not small. He is a little bit bigger than what counts as a tall Voyager these days. As for a more regular sized Voyager, or is this more? Okay, I guess the regular sized Voyager is actually a little bit more of a tall Voyager compared to current stuff, but here he is with the Siege mold. So, roughly the same height. And most importantly, here he is with the Duck Tank. And that does it for Transformers Go G-25 Go Prime. As I said, I know this is a bit of a stretch for me to be like, this is a Nemesis Prime, but I feel like he counts because Prime is in the name and it's a black repaint. But this is a really cool figure. The colors that they went with for this are fantastic. Like I said, the kind of matte, not matte, but like a very, very, very lightly glossy, mostly matte black with the light gray and the translucent and metallic greenish blue colors, the gold accents. It all looks amazing. The sculpting and detailing and proportions on this guy is great, and I will forever absolutely adore the beast mode claws becoming the shoulder pads. Like that was the most striking detail in the original version of this mold that I saw. Like I never owned it, but I remember immediately being like, ooh, that's cool. I want that. And then I never actually got it, and then I eventually saw that this existed and was like, yes, I will take that because it is a black repaint and it's got the name Prime in it. So I can put him on the Nemesis shelf, even if it's technically inaccurate. I do not care. But yeah, this guy is very cool. He's got just like a space pirate vibe, which is the whole idea. I like how the skirts in the front and back make it almost look like he's wearing a trench coat. But then you've got the big claw shoulder pads that make it look like he's wearing an edgy trench coat. This is a very cool figure. Like, I think Thundertron is a cool figure in his own right, but this color scheme really sets it off for me. But that is enough about what I think of this figure and, by extension, this mold. What do you all think of this guy, or the Legacy version, or both? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to chime in down below. I always enjoy hearing from you all. Thank you, everybody, for watching, and we still have another Nemesis Prime coming up next time. So see you all then.